The war had lasted so long that entire species measured time by it. 73 standard cycles of fire and vacuum. 73 years of broken fleets drifting like metallic graveyards between stars. The Zorvani coalition had once spanned 27 systems. Now they clung to 8, and one of those, Zeta Origi Prime, was bleeding. In the vaulted chamber orbiting Ashera Prime, the Zorvani High Council stood beneath a holographic projection of the front line. Crimson markers pulsed where the Karnax Empire advanced. Each flare represented a conquered world. Councillor Theskel lowered his crest in defeat. "If Zeta falls," he said, voice reverberating through translation nodes, "the wormhole corridor opens. The inner systems are exposed. We will not recover." Silence answered him. Not dignified silence, exhausted silence. "We have no fleets left to counter High Marshal Zirichthal," another delegate whispered. "Every counteroffensive has failed. He anticipates us. He breaks us." Theskel's eyes flicked to the final, unlit node on the projection. Earth. The humans had watched from the edge of known space for decades. Observers. Traitors. Reluctant diplomats. They had refused every invitation to join the war. "They are unpredictable," said Councillor Viral. "Their military doctrine defies simulation. Their weapon signatures are unconventional. Which is precisely why we need them," Theskel replied. "The Karnax understand us. They do not understand humanity. And if humans demand control?" Theskel's crest trembled. "Then we give it." A transmission request pulsed outward through the relay network toward Sol. Earth responded within 6 hours. The view shifted to Geneva orbit, an artificial ring encircling Earth like a polished halo. At its center floated the unified military command. No banners. No ceremony. Only steel and quiet efficiency. Admiral Risa Velka stood before the panoramic viewport, hands clasped behind her back. The planet below turned slowly, blue and indifferent. She was 42, with iron-gray streaks cutting through dark hair pulled tight at the nape of her neck. Her posture suggested stillness, but there was tension beneath it, coiled and deliberate. A communications officer approached. "Zorvani High Council awaiting response, Admiral." Velker did not turn immediately. "Patch them through." The chamber filled with towering holographic figures, avian forms, scaled diplomats, luminous beings flickering in controlled biolight. Councillor Theskel inclined his head. "Admiral Velker, we come in humility. You come in desperation," Velker corrected calmly. A ripple of discomfort moved through the projections. Theskel did not deny it. "The Karnax Empire approaches Zeta Origi Prime. If they secure the wormhole hub, the coalition collapses. We request immediate military intervention." Velker studied their faces. "For 73 years you have fought this war." "Yes." "You declined our strategic consultations." A pause. "Yes." "You hired human mercenaries while refusing formal alliance." Another pause. Velker's gaze hardened almost imperceptibly. "My brother died under one of those contracts." The chamber stilled. Theskel lowered his crest further. "His loss was recorded with honor. Spare me ritual." Her voice remained level, but colder now. "You want our fleets. You want our weapons. Understand something clearly, if Earth enters this war, we do not fight by your doctrine." Viral leaned forward. "What are your terms?" Velker stepped toward the projection table. A new image replaced the star map, a Terran insignia, stark and angular. "Total operational autonomy. Human command over all coalition forces in the Zeta sector. No interference. No oversight. You will observe. You will not advise." Murmurs erupted in overlapping frequencies. "That is unprecedented. It is unacceptable. It is survival," Velker interrupted. Silence reclaimed the chamber. Theskel considered her. "You would assume control of our fleets?" "I would assume control of the battlefield," she replied. "There is a difference." "And if we refuse?" Velker's expression did not change. "Then you will continue losing." The bluntness struck harder than any insult. After a long moment, Theskel spoke. "We accept." No celebration followed. No declarations of unity. Just necessity. "Transmit all Karnak's intelligence to our servers," Velka ordered. "Every battle log. Every tactical failure. I want their patterns mapped before we arrive." "Arrival?" Viral asked. Velka glanced toward the viewport where Earth turned below. "We're already mobilizing." Across the galaxy, aboard the Karnak's flagship Dominion Spear, High Marshal Zirichthal received the update with visible disdain. He was massive, armored and ceremonial plating fused to his flesh. Augmentation filaments pulsed along his spine, feeding data directly into his neural cortex. Centuries of war experience flowed through him like scripture. "A new participant enters the conflict," his adjutant reported. "The human polity designated Earth." Zirichthal emitted a low, rumbling sound that approximated amusement. "The scavengers? They have declared alliance with the coalition." "Declared?" His claws tapped against the armrest of his command throne. "Declarations are meaningless without proof. They demand strategic control of the Zeta sector." That drew a sharper reaction. "Control?" His eyes narrowed. "They presume authority before engaging?" "It appears so." Zirichthal rose slowly, towering over the holodouble. "Then let them come. We will educate them." He gestured, and the star map shifted to Zeta Origi Prime, a nexus of light and converging fleets. "The humans have never faced us directly," he said. "They have observed from shadows, traded technology, avoided commitment. Such species lack conviction." "Should we adjust deployment?" the adjutant asked. "No." Zirichthal's tone sharpened. "We proceed as planned. Their involvement changes nothing." He leaned closer to the projection. "They will learn that war is not improvisation. It is order. It is dominance." Back in Seoul, Geneva orbit thrummed with activity. Hangars opened along the ring's inner curve. Warships slid free in silent procession, sleek hulls coated in adaptive black composite that swallowed reflected light. No ornamentation marked them. No bright insignias. Only identification codes visible to encrypted Terran channels. Velka stood on the command deck of the dreadnought HSS Tiamat as final systems checks scrolled across her retinal display. "Fleet readiness?" she asked. 89 vessels prepared for jump," replied Captain Idris Mbeki. "Remaining units joining from lunar yards in 12 minutes. Velka nodded. "Initiate staggered departure. Maintain radio silence once beyond Seoul perimeter." Becky hesitated briefly. "Admiral, once we engage, there's no turning back. The coalition will expect continued support. We are not joining their crusade," she said. "We are ending a problem." He studied her profile. "In 5 hours?" She finally allowed the faintest hint of a smile. "Less if they cooperate." Outside the viewport, the first wave of ships vanished into slip space, leaving only distortion ripples behind. Velka clasped her hands behind her back once more as the Tiamat aligned for jump. "Plot course to Zeta Origi Prime," she ordered. Coordinates locked. The stars elongated. And humanity went to war. The Zeta Origi Prime system was quiet, too quiet for a war zone. A bloated gas giant loomed over the staging area like a bloated corpse, its icy rings littered with the fractured remains of past engagements. Broken hulls drifted in orbit like skeletal reminders. Beyond them, dozens of Zorvani and allied vessels circled cautiously, lights dimmed, crews tense. They weren't here to fight. Not yet. They were waiting. Then the Terran fleet arrived. No flares. No hyperspace distortions. Just black shapes slipping into reality like shadows crawling under a door. Silent. Sleek. Angular silhouettes that bore no insignia, no ornament, no pretense. Hundreds of ships, dreadnoughts, cruisers, swarm carriers, and unidentified hull classes the coalition had no registry for, materialized and spread across the sector with chilling coordination. Aboard the Tiamat, Admiral Velka's eyes remained fixed on the forward display. each Terran vessel locked into formation with surgical precision. Fleet anchored at grid pattern Sigma V, reported Captain Becky. All sectors report no contact. We're in total control of the arrival zone. Velker gave a small nod. Maintain passive scanning. No pings. Let them wonder what we see. In orbit aboard the Zorvani vessel Shulkaran, historian chronicler Vayan observed the newcomers through his Lumac order lens. He had studied 1,000 battles, witnessed 100 species clash. But never had he felt this. Cold, he whispered. His Zorvani handler, Captain Ralph, blinked. Cold? Not temperature, Vayan said. Purpose. The human fleet displayed no formation rituals, no heraldic broadcasts, no threat indicators. Their presence alone unsettled the sector. What are they waiting for? Ralph asked. Nothing, Vayan replied. They've already begun. Inside the Tiamat, a wall of data unfolded across Velker's command interface. The entire Karnax fleet layout, every patrol path, comms frequency, energy pattern, streamed through a network of decrypted intel. The Coalition's mistakes had left data trails everywhere. Humanity simply knew how to mine them. Show me their command relays, Velka said. Becky highlighted 6 ships at the Karnax edge. They relay orders through a tri-wave synchronized protocol. Redundant. Fast. Elegant, he said. And brittle, Velka replied. Can we penetrate the sync pattern? Already inside it, Admiral. We've inserted false acknowledgements. She allowed herself a rare smirk. Good. Let them think their orders are obeyed. On board the Dominion Spear, High Marshal Zirichthal stood before a sanctified war table lit by blue ion light. The human fleet had arrived. He regarded them as one might regard a rabid animal, fascinating, but irrelevant. Their vessels lack visible emissions, one of his war priests reported. We detect no chatter. No targeting scans. Primitive stealth, Zirichthal muttered. They think hiding proves power. He gestured across the map. Form up hammer wings. We strike preemptively, standard compression advance. Drive their center inward, break them against our edge. The war priests bowed. Orders began to cascade. Except, the orders never arrived. Hour midnight. Karnax patrol corvettes at the fringe of their fleet started to drift. Navigation froze mid-burn. Internal diagnostics spun infinite loops. Then external weapons locked onto their own engines. Aboard the Spear, Zirichthal watched 4 of his ships ignite and detonate. No warning, no enemy contact. Chaos bloomed across the map. What happened? System feedback. Diagnostic interference. Unknown origin. He slammed his clawed fist into the control pedestal. Cleanse your channels. I want clear relays. But clarity wouldn't come. Velker had already anticipated their response. Each Karnax command request was intercepted, altered, returned. Their hierarchy was blind, and didn't know it yet. Hour 103. Terran swarm satellites activated. Launched as inert scrap, they had drifted unnoticed for 2 days. Now they bloomed. Not with weapons at first, but with static. Blinding, pulsing interference that flooded Karnax long-range sensors. Every spectrum flooded. Heat, EM, quantum band. As Karnax gunners scrambled to recalibrate, a new wave of decoys arrived, thin, fast drones broadcasting false emissions mimicking Zorvani and even their own ships. What is real? Asked a Karnax tactician. Nothing, came the reply. We don't know anymore. Aboard the Tiamat, Velker listened to the chaos unfold through filtered transmissions. Her officers worked in synchronized silence, guiding autonomous AI flanking units into place behind enemy lines. Captain Becky approached. Zorvani are requesting coordination uplink. No, Velka said. They remain in observation mode. They're panicking. Some are moving out of formation. Then they'll die first. Her tone wasn't cruel. It was certain. On board the Shulkaran, chronicler Vayan felt the tremble of the ship's shift. Where are they going? He asked. Captain Rel snapped. We can't sit here. The humans are provoking full engagement. Vayan stared at the screen where dozens of Karnak's vessels spiraled into disarray. They aren't provoking, he murmured. They're orchestrating. Hour 2:17. Karnak's command ships attempted emergency reboots. Internal systems triggered security lockdowns instead, pre-programmed by Trojan code seeded months earlier, disguised as coalition telemetry packets. Terran cyber warfare had never fired a shot. It never needed to. Then came the first real attack. A single Terran railgun platform fired from behind a shattered moon fragment. One slug. One target, the secondary Karnak's dreadnought Vraxel's Fong. The kinetic round hit amidships. The ship buckled in half. The shot wasn't about destruction. It was a message. Back on the Dominion's spear, Zirichthal stood amidst his malfunctioning command table, forced to rely on direct visual feeds. Each display contradicted the next. We are under assault by illusions, one war priest roared. They are not illusions, Zirichthal growled. They are humans. Finally, the fear registered. Not rage. Not hate. Fear. Inside Tiamat's command deck, Becky turned. No losses reported. Enemy coordination is collapsing. Good, Velka said. Shall we deploy the main fleet? She paused, watching data flow in elegant streams across her display. She could already see the trajectory of collapse. No, she said. Let them destroy each other first. She tapped a single command. Activate Operation Echo. Moments later, every Karnak ship received the same transmission, played back in their native command code. A voice. One of their own captains panicked, screaming. We've been infiltrated. All fleets withdraw. The command core is compromised. It was fabricated. Didn't matter. The fear was real. Final scene. Vayan watched as entire Karnak's formations turned against one another, some trying to retreat, others believing betrayal had occurred. Fratricide. Mass ejections. Power cores detonated to prevent capture. He whispered to himself, trembling. This is not war. This is surgery. Across the field, Terran ships remained still. No chase. No kill orders. Just silent, watching. Like predators circling prey that had already bled out. Velker folded her arms. Hour 2, she said. They're breaking faster than expected. Becky exhaled. Should we notify the coalition? Velker shook her head. No need. She turned her eyes back to the void. They'll understand when they see what comes next. By the third hour, the Karnak's empire was fighting itself. Zeta Origi Prime glowed with scattered detonations, fragments of once proud warships tumbling through debris fields that had not existed minutes before. Ion trails twisted across vacuum like frantic brushstrokes. And still, the Terran fleet held position. On the bridge of the HSS Tiamat, Admiral Risa Velker studied the tactical projection without visible emotion. Red icons flickered, collided, vanished. Blue, Terran, remained steady, unmoving. Enemy coordination index? She asked. Captain Becky didn't look away from his console. Down to 31%. Command relays are desynchronized. We're intercepting fragmented orders, contradictory and escalating. Are they aware of the breach? They suspect sabotage. Not the source. Velka nodded once. Good. Prepare Phase 3. Aboard the Dominion's spear, High Marshal Zirichthal had abandoned the sanctified war table. The holographic overlays were useless now, corrupted, unreliable. He stood before a direct viewport instead, watching the carnage with his own eyes. Karnak's vessels are firing on retreating wings, a war priest reported, voice strained. Hammer Wing 3 has split. They claim false orders were issued from this flagship. Zirichthal's jaw tightened. I issue no such command. Then the humans have. The thought lingered in the air like poison. For centuries, the Karnaks had dominated through discipline. Every maneuver drilled, every response codified. War was doctrine. Predictable. Hierarchical. The humans had ignored doctrine entirely. "Restore priority channel," Zirichthal ordered. "I will speak to the fleet directly." Engineers scrambled. Power fluctuated. Static screamed across internal systems. Finally, the channel opened. "This is High Marshal Zirichthal," he began, voice amplified across encrypted bands. "Hold formation. Disregard all conflicting directives. The enemy seeks." The transmission cut. Lights dimmed. Consoles flickered to black. A single Terran infiltration drone, no larger than a cargo crate, had breached the flagship's outer hull during the earlier chaos. It had attached silently near the power spine. Now it pulsed, releasing a tailored electromagnetic surge. Not enough to destroy. Enough to blind. "Flagship dark," Becky confirmed. Velker allowed herself a measured breath. "Deploy strike elements." At last, Terran vessels moved. They did not charge. They unfolded. From the undersides of cruisers, cylindrical pods detached and drifted outward before igniting. Hundreds of autonomous attack platforms accelerated in perfect arcs, each guided by predictive models that had mapped Karnak's movements hours before. "Target priority?" Becky asked. "Logistics and propulsion," Velker replied. "Cripple their mobility. Leave the core intact." Across the battlefield, Terran projectiles lanced through space with impossible precision. Engine arrays ruptured. Supply carriers burst open, spilling munitions that detonated in chain reactions. Battleships attempting to regroup found their thrusters shredded. The destruction was methodical. On board the Zorvani vessel Shulkaran, Chronicler Vayan gripped the railing as shockwaves rippled past their defensive perimeter. "They're dismantling them," Captain Relth whispered. Vayan's Lumac lens zoomed in on a Karnak's dreadnought spinning helplessly, engines severed, weapons silent. "They studied every weakness," he said softly. "Every structural flaw. They are not fighting strength. They are targeting reliance." Relth turned to him. "Is this mercy?" Vayan hesitated. "No. This is efficiency." Hour 342. Panic spread through Karnak's ranks like contagion. Without synchronized command, captains defaulted to personal interpretation of doctrine. Some advanced blindly. Others attempted retreat. A few initiated self-destruct to avoid capture by an unseen enemy they could not locate. Zirichthal stood in emergency lighting, cables exposed along the walls of the spear. Auxiliary systems hummed weakly. "Status," he demanded. "Primary weapons offline. Navigation compromised. We are adrift." His claws curled slowly. "Visual on the human fleet." The main viewport cleared. Black ships floated at calculated distances, untouched. Their hulls reflected distant explosions like dull mirrors. "They wait," a war priest murmured. "No," Zirichthal corrected. "They choose." As if summoned by his words, a single Terran dreadnought advanced, sleek, enormous, deliberate. Its forward batteries glowed faintly. A channel request appeared. Zirichthal bared his teeth. "Accept." Admiral Velker materialized on the central display. Calm. Composed. Unarmored. "You are defeated," she said without preamble. The bluntness struck harder than any insult. "You have not engaged in honorable combat," Zirichthal snarled. "You poison systems. You sow confusion. You hide behind machines." Velker regarded him steadily. "You mistake ritual for effectiveness. You call this victory? I call it resolution." Behind her, data streams flickered, casualties tallied, fleets neutralized. "You have 5 minutes to order surrender," she continued, "or we remove the remainder." "You presume authority in my domain," he hissed. "I demonstrate it." Silence stretched between them, heavy as gravity. "You have no honor," Zirichthal said finally. Velker's expression did not shift. "Honor doesn't win wars." The channel closed. Hour 426. The final phase began. Terran dreadnoughts aligned in a broad arc across the system's inner orbit. Energy signatures climbed, not chaotic, but harmonized. Each vessel synchronized through quantum-linked cores, forming a single distributed firing solution. Solution locked, Becky confirmed quietly. Velker folded her hands behind her back. Fire! The void ignited. Coherent beams lanced outward in intersecting vectors, striking the remaining operational Karnax capital ships simultaneously. Shields collapsed under perfectly calculated overload frequencies. Hulls fractured. Reactors breached in controlled implosions that minimized collateral debris. It lasted 37 seconds. When the light faded, nothing hostile remained functional. Drifting wreckage rotated slowly against the backdrop of Zeta Origi's pale star. Escape pods scattered like seeds. On the Spear, emergency systems flickered one last time before stabilizing in minimal survival mode. Zirichthal remained standing, though the command deck around him lay in ruin. A subordinate approached hesitantly. High Marshal, there are no responding units. Zirichthal stared at the viewport, at the silent Terran fleet holding formation. How long? He asked. The subordinate consulted internal chronometers. 4 hours and 58 minutes since engagement escalation. Zirichthal exhaled slowly. 73 years, he murmured. Undone in 5. Back aboard the Tiamat, Becky reviewed the final summary. Enemy fleet neutralized. Survivors broadcasting surrender signals. Terran losses? Velker asked. None. She absorbed the confirmation without visible satisfaction. Transmit ceasefire terms to all frequencies, she ordered. The Karnax Empire stands down immediately. Non-compliance will result in systematic dismantling of remaining assets across their territory. Becky hesitated. That will reach far beyond this system. That's the point. On the Shokaran, Vayan lowered his lens as the last explosion faded. He had witnessed countless battles, each steeped in fury and desperation. This had been different. No grand charge. No prolonged clash. A calculation executed. He began recording. Designation. The battlefield had gone still. Drifting wreckage cast shadows against the distant light of Zeta Origi Prime. The Terran fleet, untouched, remained motionless, hundreds of black-hulled warships hanging in perfect formation, as if waiting for the next phase. But there was none. The war was over. Aboard the HSS Tiamat, Admiral Risa Velker stood before the main viewport. The last Karnax distress signal had gone silent 2 minutes earlier. Surrender came not through protocol or negotiation, but silence, total and undeniable. Status? She asked. Clean sweep, Captain Becky replied. All Karnax vessels either neutralized, disabled, or jettisoning survivors. Coalition ships remain in observation. Velker didn't move. Her eyes were locked on the remnants of a Karnax dreadnought, its shattered hull spinning gently with no sign of life aboard. Broadcast ceasefire conditions, she said. Delivering now. In orbit aboard the Shokaran, Chronicler Vayan whispered to his record node. The humans did not end the war with fire. They ended it with silence. They arrived, broke the enemy's mind, and now they wait, not for applause, but for the universe to understand. His voice trembled, not from fear, but from comprehension. This was not just a military victory. It was a message. Captain Relth glanced over. Do we approach them? Vayan shook his head. You don't approach a storm after it passes. You remember what it did. Inside the Dominion's spear, power had stabilized just enough for emergency life support. High Marshal Zirichthal remained seated among the ruins of his bridge. Cables sparked around him. Cracks lined the floor beneath his command dais. He was no longer a commander. Just a witness. The only light came from the viewport, through which he could still see Earth's fleet, black and patient, like judges. A comm channel flickered. It wasn't Zorvani. It was human. He accepted. Velker appeared again, as composed as ever. You live, she said. For now. You won't be harmed. Your surrender is accepted. Your command will be allowed evacuation. I am no longer in command. Zirekthal said flatly. I am myth undone. Velker didn't argue. He studied her face through the flickering feed. Why didn't you finish us? Annihilation would have taken seconds. Victory isn't extinction, she said. It's memory. You believe we'll remember this? No, she said. I believe the rest of the galaxy will. He looked away. You call this peace? It's what comes next. What you choose to make of it is no longer our concern. She cut the feed. Earth's message pulsed across open frequencies, clear, uncompromising. The war is over. Karnak's empire has surrendered all active command units. Zorvani coalition will recover occupied systems under Terran oversight. No further hostilities are permitted in the Zeta sector. Any violations will be neutralized. Earth does not require gratitude. Only compliance. There was no debate. No diplomatic sessions. No applause. 2 days later, at the edge of the system, a final transmission was issued from Geneva orbit. Velker, standing before an international council, addressed the galaxy. We entered this war not for glory, nor for alliance. We responded because silence was no longer an option. 73 years of death is enough. She paused. No rehearsed speech followed. She simply said, We will leave Zeta Origi in 7 days. After that, we do not expect to return. Do not give us a reason. The feed ended. Vayan watched the broadcast from a transport vessel. In his chronicle, he wrote, They asked for nothing in return. No seats of power. No medals. No carved monuments. Just silence and distance. And in that silence, the galaxy finally heard. On the Tiamat, Velker stood in her quarters, stripped of formal uniform. The room was quiet. No monitors, no projections. Just the hum of the ship's core in the background. Captain Becky entered quietly. Evacuation of Karnak survivors is complete. Coalition fleets have begun relief deployment. Any response from the other systems? She asked. Dozens of messages. Offers, alliances, requests. Delete them. He blinked. All of them? All of them, she repeated. We did what was necessary. That's all. He hesitated. Some of them are offering tribute. We're not conquerors, Velka said. We're a reminder. Becky nodded and turned to leave. Before exiting, he asked, Was it worth it? She looked out the window one last time. Yes. The Terran fleet left Zeta Origi on the 7th day. They didn't wait for ceremony. They didn't say goodbye. Each ship vanished in silence, flicking into slip space with no emissions left behind. And just like that, Earth was gone.